Well, the new administration, or rather the changes proposed by the new administration, casting a long shadow over the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, as concerns rise over the impact of these new policies. Addressing the summit earlier today, European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen called for global cooperation and, quote, a pragmatic approach to Mr. Trump's new team. While China's vice premier warned that there would be no winners in a trade war.
Our first priority will be to engage early, discuss common interests, and be ready to negotiate. We will be pragmatic, but we will always stand by our principles.
搞保护主义没有出路，打贸易战没有赢家。
And for more, Giles Gibson joins us live from Paris. Giles, earlier we spoke to our China correspondent. She said what China's vice premier said at Davos is the first major, response from Beijing since the inauguration of Mr. Trump. What else did China's vice premier have to say, as well as the EU chief, during their speeches?
Well, first up, we heard from Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, really with this quite realistic tone and outlook on international trade right now as Donald Trump moves into the White House, saying that we are in a new era of harsh geostrategic competition. Although she did also sort of say that she wanted to reach out to those same competitors, saying that she was ready to negotiate with the US. Of course, the threat of tariffs hanging over the European Union, as well as many other parts of the world, with Donald Trump now back in the White House, and also saying, Ursula von der Leyen, that she wants to engage with China. As for the Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang, he said that protectionism leads nowhere. So hitting a similar note in terms of Ursula von der Leyen, in terms of being realistic about the current outlook of international trade, but also wanting to reach out to potential partners around the world. In the next hour or so, we're also expecting to hear a speech from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We are waiting to see whether he will continue his tone that he's kept up over the last several weeks or months or so, of this kind of upbeat, positive attitude towards Donald Trump coming back into the White House, despite those concerns clearly about support for the US, from the US for Ukraine dropping off potentially.
Giles, of course, a lot of attention because it's headlines, what's happening, the new administration in Washington. But the argument has been there for a good time yet that Mr. Trump's policies are, in fact, just a continuation of a global trend. But he does mark a clear change, at least from the world's top economy. Do you see discussions changing substantially because of these new policies, or this string of executive orders coming out just in the last 24 hours from the White House?
Well, as ever at Davos, you have this balance between the kind of programming, the events that they've had booked in for months in advance, and then you have these different world leaders and leaders of finance, etc., reacting to world events outside of Davos, right? So these people grouped in Davos will certainly have been very relieved to see that Donald Trump did not move forward with any tariffs on the first day of his presidency, as he had suggested he might, although he also did say that potentially there could be 25% tariffs on all goods from Mexico and Canada coming in from the 1st of February. No mention of any sort of tariffs down the road yet for the European Union or indeed for China. In terms of the programming that I was talking about, well, once again, artificial intelligence is really going to dominate this year's events and this year's Davos. We had some really interesting comments from Demis Hassabis, who's the CEO of Google DeepMind, really one of the top minds when it comes to artificial intelligence, saying in an interview that artificial intelligence has been overhyped in the short term, but underappreciated in terms of its transformative effects in the medium and long term.
Well, thanks to Giles Gibson there reporting live from Paris, from the World Economic Forum that was taking place, of course, in Davos.